Hey, good day, folks. Hope everyone is doing great today. I finally made it to the Upper P here in the state of Michigan. I got the lake right behind me, and let's get right to it. Uh, so, these are all the basics that I feel people ought to have in place if you're considering living out of your vehicle. Now, of course, for those of you that have been following me, you know that I live out of my vehicle part-time. Whenever I go traveling the country, I live out of my van. So bear that in mind. I'm not a full-timer, I'm a part-timer. So with that being said, these are the essentials that I feel you ought to have in place if you're considering living out of your vehicle for any reason, especially if you're going to be living out of your vehicle full time. And none of this is in any particular order. For starters, you should have at least a couple of $1,000 saved up. When I say a couple, I'm talking at least $2,000 saved up. That way, when you get out there, in the event your vehicle breaks down or something on it goes wrong, kind of like what I explained on the video that I made the other day about my air conditioning unit going out, you'll have the money to make those necessary repairs. And if your mechanic tells you that they're going to have your vehicle for a day or two and you're living out of your vehicle, obviously you're going to need to have a hotel for those days. That way you have a roof over your head. You might even need money on top of that to rent you a car so you can get back and forth from your job or whatever. Now, depending on what's wrong with your vehicle and how long your mechanic has to keep it, it might, one issue might run you $1,000 all the way from the issue with the vehicle to what you might have to pay for hotel expenses, as well as renting a car for a day or two. So I would say at the bare minimum, have at least a couple of $1,000 saved up before you choose to live out of your vehicle. I would say if you're going to live out of your vehicle full time, you might want to double that money. Rather than having $2,000 saved up, you might want to double that to $4,000. And obviously, if you're going to live out of your vehicle, you need to find a vehicle. And I understand for some of you this might be hard to do financially, but if you have the financial means to do so, as I told you before in previous videos, you might want to find a vehicle that you're going to be comfortable sleeping in at night. Because one very important aspect of living out of your vehicle is to make sure that at night you get a good night rest. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much difference living out of your vehicle makes when you're in a vehicle to where at night you can get a good night rest. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a vehicle big enough to where you can comfortably get some rest. Whatever kind of vehicle that might be. I know for me that would be a van. I know for some of you, you're fine sleeping in a car. Some of you are small enough to where you can sleep in a Toyota Prius. So anyways, what was I saying? So anyways, and speaking of a vehicle, like if you're gonna buy a minivan, if I were you, and again, this is if you got the funds, my first choice of a van, my first choice of a van would be a Toyota Sienna. If you can't find a Toyota Sienna, then the next choice would be a mid-90s to mid-2010 Dodge Caravan. rather it be a Plymouth Voyager, Dodge Caravan. I think you guys get the idea. And if you can't find that, then the third choice for a minivan, in my opinion, would be a Mazda. And honestly, those are the only three minivans that I would mess with if I were you. Now, I guess if you're hard up and you need a van, or you prefer a van to live out of, you can always buy Ford. But Ford vans are notorious for the transmissions going out. That's why I don't like buying a Ford. Now, obviously, if you're going to buy a car or an SUV or a crossover, my first choice again would be a Toyota. Next to Toyota would be a Honda. And if you have to buy an American made, my first choice would be a Ford. Now, my first choice back in the day would have been a GM, but GM's been slacking big time. GM has been building garbage. That's why I say if you gotta buy American, first is Ford, then it's GM. And again, I guess if you're hard up and you have to buy a piece of junk Chrysler, you do what you gotta do. So let me recap real quick. You need to have $2,000 to $4,000 if you're going to start evangelism. $2,000 to $4,000. A decent quality vehicle, one that's comfortable enough for you to sleep in. All right, there's a couple of people walking by. Like I told you guys yesterday, I'm still kind of funny about talking to a camera when there's people around. I'm gonna have to get over that stuff, but it is what it is. But anyways, where was I at? Now, another thing that I would suggest you do, if you're going to get into living out of your vehicle, and this suggestion is assuming that you're living out of your vehicle because you want to travel the country, not out of necessity. So if you're wanting to live out of your vehicle, if you're wanting to live out of your vehicle, not have to, but want to, like if you live it, like kind of like what I'm doing. Another thing that I would do if I were you is, before you do a whole lot of extensive traveling, I would purchase yourself a house. I would purchase yourself some type of a home base. I mean, rather it be a house, rather it be a piece of land that you choose to build a tiny home on, I would purchase something like that and pay it off before you get out here and do any extensive traveling. Now, of course, if you're traveling, if you're going to get paid to travel, or if your work is remote, then that's completely different. But for those of you that still work a 9 to 5, and you're wanting to do some traveling, and to save money on hotels, you're wanting to live out of your vehicle, I would go ahead and buy yourself a house and get it paid off as soon as possible before you get out here. That way, when you get out here and the unexpected happens, like a vehicle breakdown, or maybe you get out here and you want to go somewhere, you want to treat yourself to a souvenir, you want to treat yourself to a nice meal, whatever the case might be. Any unexpected expenses that might come up in your travels, with a paid off house, you're going to be in a better financial position to where you'll be able to absorb those extra costs. Not like for me, I didn't get out here and start traveling the way I'm traveling now until after I paid off my house. So that's my suggestion to you guys. Pay off your house before you get out here. I mean, there's a lot of people that get out here and there's a lot of people that get out here and they're living this life and they're living check to check. They don't own any type of assets. They don't own nothing. They're just strictly living check to check while they're out here traveling the country. And traveling the country is a beautiful thing. I love doing it. But doing it while you're broke is not a good thing. I mean, I can't emphasize how important it is to have yourself a home base before you get out here and you travel. Even if you think you're wanting to live like this full time. Sometimes people think that because they're fed up with paying their mortgage or fed up with paying their rent. And then once you get out here for some people, after the first day of living out of their vehicle full time, they wake up the next morning and have an epiphany and they decide to go back to their home, go back to their job, and just scrap the whole idea of living out of their vehicle altogether. And some people, it might take them a couple of months before they decide to no longer live out of their vehicle full time. Some people, it might take a year. It might take a couple of years. But there's a lot of people that think they want to live out of their vehicle full time. And sooner or later, they get sick of it. It gets old. I mean, there's a lot of inconveniences to living out of your vehicle. Even when you're living out of your vehicle part-time like I do, there's a lot of inconveniences that you have to deal with. Now, I understand there's people out here that they basically have everything in their van build as what many people may have in their house. You got a lot of people that have solar for their power. They have some type of a toilet. Some people even have little showers in their vans. And even if you were to build your vehicle out to where you had at least most of the creature comforts of home, one thing which a lot of people tend to miss after a while is going to be square footage. Like the freedom to be able to get up, stretch, walk around. Having your own yard to where you can go outside, catch you some fresh air, walk around in your yard, have an element of privacy. Don't have to worry about law enforcement harassing you. Don't gotta deal with anybody else for that matter harassing you. I mean, there's just certain levels of comfort that you're gonna only have in sticks and bricks. In fact, before you go out here full time and live in your vehicle, I would advise you to live in your vehicle part time. Like maybe on days you're off your job, load up your vehicle, travel somewhere, travel at least a couple hundred miles away from your house. That way it's going to be harder for you to cheat. So when you So travel at least a couple hundred miles away from your house and live out of your vehicle. And do that for, I don't know, do that a few times and see how you feel before you go in it for, before you go in it and do it full time. And even if you think you want to do it full time, before you get too excited and you go out here and you blow a bunch of money on buying solar and a refrigerator and whatever else that they sell out here for people that want to live out of their vehicle full time, before you go spending all your money on that, if I were you, I would go ahead and live in your vehicle full time for at least a month. And after a month, just evaluate yourself. I mean, you know, ask yourself, how do you feel so far? Do you want to continue? Do you not want to continue? But yeah, I would suggest you live out of your vehicle. I would suggest you live out of your vehicle for at least a month before you blow a bunch of money on solar and all that other crap. In fact, some people would say if you're wanting to live out of your vehicle, you'll be better off buying an RV as opposed to some type of a van. And I'm going to disagree on that. And here's the reason why. Because see, if you buy an RV, it's going to be a lot harder to boondock. Boondock means maybe at night you might park at a truck stop or you might park at Walmart and sleep. Wherever you park, you don't have to use any utilities. That's basically what boondocking is. And when you first start living out of your vehicle, I would not buy an RV. Okay, if you buy an RV, it's going to be a lot harder to boondock, and it's going to use up a lot more gas. Plus, RVs are going to be much higher maintenance, and many of your RVs, especially the newer ones, are built like shit. And they're going to be a lot harder to park. As for if you live out of a van, whether it be a minivan or a full-size van, or you live out of your car, not only will the gas consumption be a lot better, but on top of that, it'll be easier to park. If anything on it goes wrong, it'll be a lot easier and cheaper to repair. Because, you know, with an RV, if you have to make repairs to an RV, you're not going to be able to take your RV to your local mechanic. You're going to have to take your RV to an RV mechanic, which are a lot harder to find than a local mechanic in many cases. So that's why if you think you want to live out of your vehicle, I would start with a van. And maybe after you've been doing it for a year or two, full time, and you like it, or you want to stay permanent part time, and you've been doing it for a year or two, and you like it, and you think you need an RV, okay. But whether you're living out of your vehicle full time or part time, I wouldn't buy an RV for at least the first year. Alright folks, if I get quiet, it's going to be because there's some people that are walking my direction. Okay. Let me think where I was at. So anyways, don't buy an RV for at least the first year. Rather you're living out of your vehicle full-time or part-time. I'm just trying to find me a new spot here. You guys can look at that boat over my head. You see that boat? Alright, like I was saying. And back to what I was saying a second ago about having a paid off house before you decide to live out of your vehicle, whether it be part-time or full-time. When I talk about a paid off house, let me be specific. I'm not talking about a trailer that's in a trailer park to where you still have to pay monthly rent, because monthly rent a lot of times goes up, and and then yeah. So when I talk about a paid off house, I'm talking about either a regular stick built house that's not in an association, or if you own a tiny home of some type that's on your own piece of land, again, not affiliated with an association. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, you do not want to deal with any house or any structure that has an association attached to it. You want to stay away from, because that, there's all kind of horror stories online about people that got their asses handed to them by their association over some bullshit. So don't deal with no association. And if you're gonna purchase a trailer, whether it be a single wide or a double wide or a modular home, do not buy a trailer in a trailer park. Make sure that trailer or that modular home or whatever the case might be, make sure it's on your own piece of land. And that's what I mean by having a paid off house. Now, I know some of you got that traveling bug, and you're gonna probably want to travel extensively while you're still paying your mortgage. And I guess if your money is right, you can do that. But me personally, I have a lot more fun out here traveling the country without having a mortgage hanging over my head, because I know when I travel, when I get back home, I go home to a house that's paid off. I don't have to write a check to Wells Fargo or nobody. And speaking of which, another thing which I would do if I were you, before you, give me 1 second here. Okay, sorry about that, folks. I just wanted to get away from people here. Another thing which I would do if I were you is I would pay off your vehicle. If you have any type of a car note on your vehicle, before you get out here and choose to live out of your vehicle. And again, I'm not talking about those of you who are doing it out of necessity. I'm talking to those of you who are doing it because you want to, because you want to travel and stuff, kind of like myself. So with that being said, before you get out here and you choose to live out of your vehicle and travel the country and everything, I would also suggest that you pay off your vehicle. Because again, I know for me, I have a lot more fun traveling the country with a paid off vehicle. A vehicle that I own, not Wells Fargo. Now again, some of you are going to probably get out here and travel with a car note. And that's your business if you do. But my suggestion to you is, before you get out here and you live out of your vehicle, kind of like what I'm doing, I would suggest that you pay off your vehicle first. And that's about all I got for you folks. Of things that I would suggest you do before you get out here and you choose to live in your vehicle, whether it be full-time or part-time. So hopefully this video helped out somebody out here. And on that note, if you like what I do, give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.